Welcome to Science. Last time we got together, we were talking about the moon. We were talking about how the moon has many different phases that goes with the moon as it's making its way around Earth. Remember, the moon is the Earth's natural satellite. So let's do some review there. Now, why does the moon have less gravity than the Earth? If you said because it was smaller in size, you were correct. Since the moon is not as big as Earth, it doesn't have as much gravity. Now, how does the moon affect the ocean? If you said that the moon's gravity pulls the ocean to itself, which makes the tides that we see, you are correct. Great job. Now let's get into our lesson. Okay, so as we get into our lesson today, we have learned about the heavenly bodies of outer space. And you may have noticed that our measures of time depend on these heavenly bodies. So let's see if we can remember what makes our year, what makes our seasons, what makes our months, and what makes our days. So we're going to be talking about measurements of time. So one of the reasons that God created the heavenly bodies in space is to help us here on Earth measure time. We get our years, our seasons, our months, and our days all because of how the Earth is rotating around the sun. Now, do you remember how many days are in a year? If you said 365 days, you are correct. Now, the amount of time it takes Earth to completely go around the sun is exactly 365 days and 1/4. So we know it as 365 days. Now that 1/4, you may be like, what is that about? Well, that represents leap year. Do you remember what month we get to have leap year in, or that has an extra day? If you said February, you are correct. So that 1/4 represents the leap years that we get to experience every 4 years. That means it took an extra day to go around the sun, a complete orbit. Okay, so that's how we get our years. Now, what about our seasons? Okay, so I have a little example here. Here is our sun. Okay, and then here is planet Earth. Now, we learned that the sun stays still and Earth is making its way around the sun while spinning at the same time. So remember, Earth is spinning on its very own axis. And while it's spinning on its axis, it is making its way, or it's orbiting around the sun. Okay, so as the Earth is orbiting around the sun, there are parts of the Earth that, although it is spinning, it's tilted. So when this Earth is tilted toward the sun, we say that that part of Earth is having summertime. That means that the opposite end that is tilted away from the sun, or is not facing the sun, is in their winter time. So it's all depending on the tilt of the Earth. The tilt of the Earth is the reason why we have our seasons. Okay, so while we're talking about different things that are orbiting, that Earth is, as we're talking about Earth orbiting around the sun, we also learned about how the moon orbits around Earth. Remember, the moon is the natural satellite of Earth. So it takes the moon about a month to go around Earth one time. And within that month, there are different phases of the moon. So this is how people in the older days were able to keep track of months and days, because they were watching the phases of the moon. Now, during the month, the moon will go through its phases at different times as the month continues on. So as we were just talking about how as the Earth is making its way around the sun, Earth is actually spinning on its own axis. So as it's spinning on its own axis, it is making its way around the sun. Now, there's the side of the earth that is tilted towards the sun as the sun is rotating around as the earth is rotating around the sun. Now, when that side of the earth is tilting toward the sun, it has daytime, which means the side that is not tilting toward the sun or away from the sun, it has nighttime. Now, back in the olden days, knowing the position of the sun in comparison to where you are on earth would help you figure out what time of day it was. So people would use something called a sundial in order to tell what hour of the day it was, whether it was morning, noon, or the evening. Now, we can depend on Earth's moon constantly going around the moon every about a month or about a 30-day span. Okay, so the sunrise always happens in the morning at a certain time. The sun goes down always at a certain time. These are constants that are a picture of God's faithfulness. So God put these constants in our lives so that we can rely on them and be able to tell time. Now, God said to Noah after the flood, he promised him that we would always see a picture of God's faithfulness in our lives. And seeing the constants of the moon going around the earth, for 30 days and the earth making its way around the sun for a year, those are constants that we can rely on that God has put in for us. Now, I want you to go into your science books and I want you to read pages 152 to 153, actually 154 on your own. Go through the questions. If you have all of the ingredients for the something to try on 154, try it out. See how it turns out. Maybe take a picture and send it to me. Other than that, happy studying. Look for an assignment with questions on Google Classroom.